Good morning, everyone. Onegaishimasu. This morning, I'll begin by reading Shokushu number 4, the unification of mind and body. Mind and body are actually one. Do not moan over being powerless, thinking that all your strength is just what you ordinarily experience. When we use our mind and body in this unified way and leave everything up to the universe, we can experience the true power of being human. This morning, folks, I thought I might say something about Otomo. Actually, I wrote a new book. I'm in the process of finishing another book, and that book is entitled The Otomo. And way back in the late 90s and early 2000s, Suzuki Sensei asked me a number of times if I wouldn't consider writing something down about this process of being Otomo. Otomo, as you probably know, is the practice of supporting the teacher. And I'll explain more about what that supporting means. Of course, that's basically what the book is about. But let me just say that because of the tradition that I come from, Koichi Toi Sensei, Shinichi Suzuki Sensei, and me, and because Suzuki Sensei practiced Otomo with Toi Sensei, and Toi Sensei practiced Otomo with O Sensei. So Suzuki Sensei felt it was very important to train me, to let me practice Otomo. But most teachers in Aikido, most schools of Aikido don't have this practice. So there are very few people that have the opportunity to practice Otomo, because you can only practice Otomo with a teacher in the beginning that understands it. And out of those few that have had the opportunity to practice Otomo, even less, I have to say, come to realize that Otomo is not a technique or a practice per se in itself, but it's a way of being with other people that you learn through the practice of Otomo. That's the value of it. The value of it is not just taking care of the guy that's more experienced than you. You know, for instance, when you have a meeting with the teacher and you're practicing Otomo, when you have a meeting with the teacher during this day, let's say, the first thing you do that happens when you wake up in the morning is you begin to align yourself with what has to happen during this day. Of course, you're going to think about the technical issues, whatever your meeting is about. Maybe you're going to go do a demonstration. Maybe he's going to teach a seminar. Maybe you're somewhere where there's a seminar. Maybe he's just teaching a class. Maybe you're doing something else with him altogether. But whatever it is, you'll need to deal with transportation. You'll need to dealing with other people. You'll need to deal with, you know, all his gi, his hakama, all the tools that he might use while he's engaged in whatever he's engaged in. So you need to make sure those are all ready. So you got up extra early in the morning, you make sure everything is laid out, everything is great. But much more importantly, you attune yourself, because this doesn't come naturally, folks, to us to be unselfish. We are selfish from birth. Our concern is 100% on me, my needs, my fears, my concerns, my ambition. Whatever it is, I'm here to harvest from you all the good things that will make me a better person. Okay, so this is you cannot say this is wrong because every single human being is like this. But it's not always the most fruitful way to interact with people. There is another way. We can call it selfless. That's a bold statement. Anybody who's practiced Otomo knows that it's not so easy. And just saying that doesn't really reflect what the experience is like. So in the beginning, it certainly is a technique. You learn all the ins and outs of how to do a good job as Otomo. Like I'm saying, the most important thing is attuning yourself to this way of being with the sensei. And with Suzuki Sensei, I was with him for 35 years, from the day I met him to the day he passed away. So certainly during all these years, I was not acting as his Otomo at every moment, but I was his basic Otomo throughout his life. He had other people that practiced Otomo with him now and then, particularly later. But since I did my practice with him, I always identified the Otomo practice with my relationship with him. So maybe Otomo, literally I was maybe 25 years just doing Otomo with him. After a long period of practicing like that, it begins to get ingrained in you. And what he used to tell me is that when I would ask him, why do I need to do this Otomo practice? It's very difficult. And he would say, because you'll be a terrible teacher if you cannot Otomo your students. You think you are the Otomo, he would tell me, but I am your Otomo. The day you realize that, that's the day you understand what is Otomo. And then you can be a teacher. So for instance, if I'm teaching a seminar in Europe somewhere, maybe in Spain, let's say, and Carlos Boyer Sensei is my Otomo. So he's taking care of all the technical things, so I don't have to think about that. But when I get up at the apartment in the morning and I'm going to go teach the seminar, you can bet that I'm sitting attuning myself to the teacher in Spain, to the host, in this case, Rafael Gandia Sensei, who is going to be, who I'm going to meet at the dojo, and who's all of his students I'll be teaching. And he has a certain way of being, a certain way of interacting. And I want to be in tune with that and provide the ultimate amount of support. Now, that I would not be thinking that way, believe me, if I hadn't had 25 years of it with Suzuki Sensei. One time we were, well, he would often say to me, let's put it this way, because it wasn't just one time. When we're traveling, he would say, you cannot just go to sleep at night. You are the teacher. If you are the teacher, you must Otomo everyone 24 hours a day. I didn't really realize yet that he meant everyone on earth. I thought he just meant like all of our friends and stuff. But no, he was saying you should be holding the whole community in your heart while you're sleeping. While you're waking, of course, but also while you're sleeping. I have to tell you some funny story. Tracy Reasoner Sensei is teaching the beginning class on Maui. So he is the sort of shepherd of all the young beginning people, not necessarily young in years, but beginning people that come into Aikido to train. Excuse me. And at one point, a few years ago, was some of his students were maturing, and he came to me and he said, Sensei, I think that these students are ready to begin practicing Otomo. And I said, oh, good. Let's have them begin now. And he goes, well, but I mean, well, how can they practice Otomo? Because who should they be Otomoing? I said, no, that's not how you begin practicing Otomo. I see your students wandering around the dojo in a self-conscious haze. They're not even holding hakama yet. Have them begin to take care of small things. Begin to notice how they bow when they come into the dojo. Begin to notice that they go to greet the sensei first thing. And in Tracy's case, he's the sensei. Do they do that? Well, no, not yet. Yes, well, so you don't just fall, off a cliff when you don't know how to fly. You have to be able to learn to care for others. And you do it through your teacher in the beginning, and gradually it begins to expand out to more people in the dojo, more students. And someday you'll wake up and you're actually a teacher, and you actually have the responsibility to attune with these people. I'm using this word attune. I mean by this, the practice, becoming one with, practicing osairu. Osairu means to cover, actually. But in Aikido, what the practice of it is more like to include. So you don't want to have anyone that you're meeting at this seminar that you're going to go teach today. When I got up this morning, I don't want to have anyone that is coming to this class with me this morning, even though it's on Zoom, not person to person. I still want to have anyone that I'm not holding. I don't want anyone that is not included. Included, not so much in my thinking, but in my heart, in my being. So, so that I'm caring for you. Do you see? So this is what teaching Aikido is. Teaching Aikido is not teaching somebody, well, it's not only teaching somebody how to throw Shonuchi Kokunage, or how to hit the bell and practice Sokushin no Gyo, or how to do Kyatsu Ho. It is these things, of course, but what is the meaning of all of that, you see? So for Toei Sensei, he was always watching us. And when I would have a private meeting with him and he would talk to me, I realized that he'd been watching my every move. And I didn't realize that ahead of time. But he was completely aware of my development all the time. One time I walked into the dojo in Japan with Suzuki Sensei. He and I had just gotten off the plane and taken the bus to Utsunomiya and the taxi up to headquarters. And we walked into headquarters, and there was Tohei Sensei sitting by himself in the back of the greeting room. We were so happy to see him, and we both walked up and bowed and greeted him. And he looked at me and he said, Mr. Curtis, what is your rank? And I said, it's Godan, it's Godan, 5th Dan. And he goes, well, I make you now 6th Dan, okay? Now you're 6th Dan. And he calls somebody over, he said, write this down. He's 6th Dan now from now on. Just like that. Now, where did that come from? I hadn't seen him in 6 months. Okay? So you might think, well, maybe he's been talking with Suzuki Sensei, maybe writing letters. They did not talk on the phone. Maybe writing letters. We didn't have any, I don't think we had even internet or email yet in those days. That was a long, long time ago. Anyway, just to give you the idea here is that a real teacher really keeps everybody in mind all the time. When some student of mine, I mean, the very worst thing you can do as a student is come to the teacher and remind him that that you need to be promoted to some rank. I mean, that just shows that you have no idea. You have no respect for the teacher. The teacher is holding you in his hands. He knows exactly when you will be ready for exactly whatever that rank is. That's why we have these kind of sayings like, don't ever ask the teacher, it's not just because it's rude to ask for rank. It is rude. I mean, in Japan, it just could never be done, but that's, in Japan, they grow up with this. But for us in the West, it's very important that we understand how this works. I've just looked at the clock. I see it's 11 minutes after 7. Yes, I got telling you quite a bit. This is Sunday morning meditation, so why don't we begin, and we can maybe talk a little at the end if you have any question about Otomo, okay? So we'll begin, sit up straight. We'll begin with some key breathing. When we're doing this kind of meditation, it's like, maybe it's like this is one point and this is tente. And the breath brings them together like this. It never ceases. This is the experience of infinity. That's why this image. But don't try to imagine this. I'm not trying to put an image in your mind. I think I just did. But it's the breath unifies. So unification of mind and body cannot happen, let me put it this way, cannot happen without the breath. The breath is what keeps us alive physically, and the breath is what keeps us alive spiritually. The breath is the key. So deep, calm breathing, yes, but the breathing brings all the elements that are separate in our lives to one. Very important. So we were talking about Otomo, and we have with us this morning two of the most experienced Otomos in my school, in our group, and probably in the world. Tracy Reasoner Sensei and Carlos Boyer Sensei. So maybe if you want to know anything about Otomo, they're good people to ask because they understand pretty much. If you ask them, maybe they tell you they don't understand. I say they do. Maybe each of you would like to say something, whatever. Carlos, start with you, please.
Good morning, Sensei. Thank you. Yeah, it's like Otomo practice. It's like good medicine. It doesn't always taste good. Sometimes it's a little bitter, but it's in the long run, we realize that this is what we need. I think I'll leave it at that for now, Sensei.
Right, so I don't want you to discourage anyone.
Sorry.
The bitter pill that we have to swallow. Yes, of course it is. It can be very painful because it's completely against our ego needs. It completely violates our selfish mind. That's why we do it, of course. But it's also, you have to be careful because the selfish mind can get behind it. I got into a place one time where I thought I was really, really hot shit Otomo, really good. And that was just before I got taken down really, really low by my own, it was just, it was revealed to me. I mean, there's a story about it in the book. You can, a long story. I won't tell you now. Anyway, we have to leave something for the book, right? But yes, this is usually just before you really get hammered, and that in fact is the reason why you get really get hammered, is when you start to feel really good about yourself. So you have to be careful because the ego can take it away in both directions. You know? Yes, it can be uncomfortable. So what? Yes, it can be very rewarding. So what? You're not doing it to get anything. You're not there to harvest. You're there to open your being, which we're not used to doing. Tracy, please say something for us, to us.
You can't see me today. I don't know
Not
why.
dressed?
I don't know why you can't see me. I guess my life's so dark here. I'm in a dungeon. Okay, here I am. So, Sensei, we do have Andrew Labar Sensei, who also has Otomo experience. You could obviously ask him. Because I will say this, Andrew's the sole reason I live on Maui. Because I never knew it was possible to move to Maui and train with you and Suzuki Sensei. But I was at a seminar from Arizona. I'd come here and I heard you guys talking, and Andrew was talking to you about possibly, is it, moving here to Maui. Wasn't quite sure. He was thinking about it. And my ears perked up because I was like, you can do that? Wow, that sounds like a great idea. But I didn't tell anybody about that. I just kind of put it in the back of my head and said, maybe someday when I retire from my job in Arizona, I'll move to Maui and train or whatever. And for reasons unknown to me, I ended up coming a little earlier. And I remember coming and seeing you in your office and Suzuki Sensei, and I said, I'm on the 5-year plan, Sensei. I'm going to be here for 5 years, then I'm going to go back to the mainland and probably open a dojo or something like that. And you just looked up at me and said, don't give it any time, Sensei, or Tracy. You don't give it any time. Just be here and train for right now, all right? Because I had no idea what it was like to be here, train full time, be with you, be with both Suzuki Sensei, Curtis Sensei, and all the other high-ranking people here. It's not like I'm anything special. There's like the highest ranking women in the world are on Maui. Lynn Curtis, Joni Jackson, Sally Worcester, sure I forgot, Melly Stokesbury. I mean, it's being Otomo is another level of training, but people have to understand that, just training around these people alone. I mean, I've learned more from them than all my blunders and mistakes, which are a lot. So I just, it's a great opportunity to train Otomo. It's painful. I agree everything with what Charles Boyer Sensei says, but it's hard to explain. That's why your book is so hard to write, because you can't transmit that kind of experience sometimes in words. It's not 3-dimensional. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I'll go back to my wine cellar.
Your wife's son. Thank you very much, Tracy. Yeah, it's a very difficult thing to, it defies definition. It's so much of an experience. It's like asking somebody, oh, what is life like? Yeah, you know, I mean, you can't, you have to pick a couple of things and talk about what is life on earth like? You know, what are we doing here? There's as many stories as there are individual human beings. I would be happy to call on Andrew Labar because Tracy says he's here. I don't see him anywhere. Andrew, are you here?
Hi, Sensei.
Oh, you are. Hi.
How are
So
you today?
good. I'm so happy to see you. Could you please offer us some of your wisdom in the Otomo department?
I'll never forget, I think in 1995, you and Shino Sensei taught an Otomo class before Tamura Sensei seminar in Lawrence. And I had no clue. You said all the words, but I had no clue. And of course, through my time with Tsubaki Sensei and Otomoing for him in Japan, I learned that Otomo is not something, how do I want to say this? Otomo is not something that you really ever perfectly succeed at. It is the ultimate life lesson because you're always striving to help your teacher. And with, you know, being a human being, our ego, that's really, really difficult to do. No matter what, you feel like you fall short many, many, many times, which is kind of the way life is too. But I'll never forget, I'll tell one short story. We were on Maui going to train, and I was with Tsubaki Sensei. And I came to the dojo, and I saw you get out of your car at the dojo, and somebody grabbed your bag. And so I'm getting out of the car, and I immediately go to the trunk to get Sensei's bag. Well, Tsubaki Sensei grabbed it too. And we got in a little tug of war in the parking lot over his bag. Because I was trying to take care of him, and he did not want me taking care of him. And I had to explain to him that if he actually walked into the dojo on Maui carrying his bag, and I'm behind him not carrying his bag, that this was not a good thing. He very reluctantly relented and allowed me to carry his bag in there. He would never allow me to help him change clothes. He would just like put his hand and go away, you know. But the training is invaluable. Having to put yourself not first, having to give up what you think you want and sacrifice it for somebody else. That's what I got out of Otomo.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so you have been Otomo for me on occasion also. And so
Yes.
you're very sincere and clear about what needs to be done. But that's a wonderful thing that you've had this experience. It's changed your whole approach to Aikido, hasn't it?
Yes, Sensei, it has. And I have to say what you said earlier about we're not just, if you're a teacher, doesn't mean you're not Otomo. You have to always keep your students in mind, even when you're not with them. And I may not be at the high enough level yet to take care of everybody in the world, but I always try, because you told me a long time ago what Sensei said about taking care of your students. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, so the big, of course, as Andrew says, we don't, nobody succeeds perfectly at Otomo. That's not what it's about. But the big issue with Otomo is that we get assigned to be an Otomo for a period of time. And when we're done, we tend to think we're done. Oh, I'm not Otomo now, you're Otomo now. And that's not how it works. If it works like that for you, you don't understand. And you cannot, I can't emphasize enough how you cannot, if you can't serve your teacher, you cannot serve your students. You can't actually, you can teach them maybe very, very well. You know, I know teachers that don't serve their students at all, so to speak, in the way that I'm talking about, but they're glorious teachers, very good teachers. So there's nothing wrong with that too. And maybe even that's the kind of teacher you would like. They're out there. If you would like that, then you go train with them. Maybe you just want to have expertise. That's great, but that's not what I'm doing. That's not what Suzuki Sensei was doing, and that is definitely not what Tohei Sensei was doing. So this tradition was handed to me in spite of me, not because of me. And so I'm sharing it with you because I learned through this experience how incredibly valuable it can be. Okay, it's after 8 o'clock. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Otomos, talking about this today. More later. See you soon.